Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew, and you're listening to Hey, I'm Talkin here, the podcast where I talk about anything and everything I find interesting. In today's episode, we'll be talking about the Netflix original Altered Carbon. I'll be talking about the first 2 seasons and the animated movie, as well as going into my thoughts about the setting itself. So a little history about Altered Carbon first. It is originally a set of 3 books from the early 2000s, which was then turned into a Netflix original TV series for 2 seasons, then being cancelled quite recently. It also had, between season 1 and 2, an animated movie come out. There's also a comic book that was released as well. Full disclaimer, I have not read the 3 books or the comic. I own them, but I have not finished reading them yet, so I will keep all my opinions about only the television series and the animated movie. So I guess the first thing to address is, what is Altered Carbon? Altered Carbon is as I said, a book series and a television series set in the far future where death is no longer permanent. Consciousness have been able to be placed inside of these contraptions called stacks, which contain your memories, your thoughts, basically who you are. And human bodies are now considered sleeves because they're disposable. If your sleeve dies, you can stack up into a new sleeve and continue life. If your stack is destroyed, it's called like permanent death or real death, and you are completely dead. So because of this, now you have people who are living hundreds of thousands of years, basically however long they want to, as long as their stack is not destroyed. If you are incredibly wealthy, you can back up your stack so that if your stack is destroyed, you don't have a permanent death. You can go back from your last backup, say it's 24 hours, so you lose 24 hours of memory and continue living, or a week, or however long. Most people, I believe, in the show and such do a 24-hour backup. So if you do die and have a stack death, it is only 24 hours period that you are losing. So originally, stacks were used as a way to keep consciousness and such for extended space travel. Because the series does take place over multiple worlds and stuff, it was originally as a way to have people travel long distances without actually having people dying and hundreds of years of just waiting and such. It's, here's your stack, it's put in here, and then you have a new life when you get to the area. And then it became perverted into anyone can have a stack, everyone has a stack, and if you have enough money, you can basically live forever. So the creator of the stack saw this perversions and was not happy with it, so formed a rebellion called the Enclave, and they fought against the way that the stacks were being used and the political movements that were being made, and they became what was described as a terrorist organization, as they fought to have real death and stacks not be used in this way by rich people who are just like, I'm gonna live forever, I'm gonna back up my stacks, I'm going to clone my body so I will never die and will be here forever. So now that there's a little bit of backstory of the world that Altered Carbon takes place in, the book itself and the TV series, because the TV series follows the books, the main character is Takeshi Kovac, who is the last living Enclave member. The Enclave had become, as I said, a terrorist organization, but extremely good fighters, and he was kept on ice, as it's called, where they basically just keep your stack in storage for X amount of time. It is how prison sentences are kept out. So instead of rotting away in a prison for 50 years, your stack is kept on ice for 50 years, and then when you are released, you're given whatever scraps of a sleeve you can find and sent out into the world, and then from there you have to work to earn money and maybe get a new sleeve and yada yada yada. So he was kept on ice for, I believe it was like 200 and something years, 300 years. He was kept on ice for an incredibly long time and only summoned back out in season 1 for a particular reason. Now, just a heads up, I will be going into some maybe some light spoilers, nothing too terrible, so I'm not going to spoil any endings, just kind of give you a basic overview of season 1 and season 2 and the movie, and then I'm going to talk about the setting and why I think it works so well. So just a forewarning, I'm going into very basic plot of season 1. So in season 1, there is a very rich man who is killed, and his stack was destroyed, and he has been backed up. So he comes back out and he's like, someone killed me. I can't remember what happened because my stack was destroyed before backup. So I'm going to hire the best person I can find, which would be Takeshi Kovac, to figure out who killed me, and I'll give him a bunch of money and wipe his slate clean and let him be whoever he wants to be. He just has to figure out who killed me. So it's Takechi Kovac being summoned up 300 years, 250 years into the future and being like, I have to get my bearings. And then also I have to figure out who killed this very rich person so that I can get my freedom and mingle with these political bodies that maybe are a little sketchy and try and figure out what's going on while not losing himself in the process. So that's a very vague interpretation of season 1. I don't really want to spoil anything because I do believe everyone should see the show. It's only 2 seasons. It did get canceled, so you can watch it pretty easily. I believe it's 16 episodes, 8 season 1, 8 season 2. I'm going to just go into some things that I really liked about it. I liked the characters. Takechi is really good in this one. Some characters who come along are very good. My favorite is probably Poe. He's in season 1 and 2. He is an AI who runs a hotel and who is, let's say he gets very attached to Takechi. So he's my favorite character, but there's also some side characters who help out Takechi on his journey, along with a police officer and some other people. I'm just going to say that Poe is my favorite character. Him and Takechi are my favorite characters from season 1 and season 2. Another really cool thing about season 1 is because Takechi has been basically spun back up, as it's called, into this world that he has left behind 250, 300 years ago. We are learning with him what is going on and how things have changed. So it's a very easy barrier into learning about the world because it is a very extensive cyberpunk type world with augmentations and all these different forms of technology that it's very easy to be brought in with it because Takechi also doesn't understand them because he's been gone for so long. So we get to be brought along and be like, okay, I understand. Oh, he's learning about it too. Everything's making sense. It doesn't feel forced that it was explained to us. So that's really all I'm going to touch on season 1 is it's a really cool cyberpunk television show. Very interesting concept. Very good acting in it. It looks phenomenal. It is very well executed. Between season 1 and season 2 is when Altered Carbon Re-Sleeved came out, and that re-sleeving is what it's called when you put a new stack in a new sleeve. It's called re-sleeving. This one takes place actually like 253 years before the first season, when he has not been frozen or anything like that. So I guess it's been like 250 years that he's been on ice. So it takes place 253 years in the past, where he is summoned as a job to protect a Yakuza tattoo artist because they are the only one who performs this tattoo ritual. So they need to stay alive until the ritual is completed and people are trying to kill them. It is a CGI anime. So if you've seen on Netflix like Baki or Levius, those are the same kind of look as the Altered Carbon Re-Sleeved. It doesn't, obviously it's only an hour and 14 minutes, so it can't go into as much detail and lore as the 2 seasons, as they are like 8 hours each or thereabouts. But it is a fun kind of watch to see what it was like before he was caught and put on ice, and just to see basically some really cool fighting and action and people getting chopped up and shot and blown up. So not much of a depth dive on Altered Carbon Re-Sleeved. It's just a very fun, turn your brain off, watch people get chopped up, shot up, and beat up. So if you want to see something like that, check out that. I'd say watch it after season 1. That's when it was put out, or after season 2, because that's when I watched it. But you probably want to watch it after you've seen a little bit of the show, just so that you have a concept of what exactly is going on with the stacks and such. Anyways, let's move on to season 2. So season 2 takes place about 30 years after season 1, which is a really cool thing about the show, is that time doesn't really matter if you can live forever. So we jump about 30 years in the future. We don't really see any other characters coming back from season 1 except for a few glimpses here and there. None of the characters from season 1 are main characters of season 2, just Takechi. And it is kind of the same thing as season 1. There's a political movement that he has been summoned to take care of, but it is a lot less political than the first one, where it was very political, intriguing, and a lot of dealing with political people. This one deals with the politics of it a lot less and is more focused on the regular people, whereas season 1 was mainly focused on what was happening with the higher up elites. This one is mainly focused on what the regular people are doing and what's going on with them. It's got the same type of concept of season 1, but not the same execution. It's basically looking at it from the other hand. This one brings in some more lore about the world that it was built in, about the stacks itself, and some things that I will not get into. It has a lot of, I will say this, it has a lot of characters that you will love to hate. there are a good handful of them which is like, I cannot wait till this person gets what's coming to them. An interesting thing is, so with all the travel and re-sleeving, Takechi isn't played by the same actor as in season 1, which I think is a very incredible thing that can be done. Whereas in most shows, oh, if we don't have the same actor as season 1, shoot, okay, either we're going to recast him and not say anything, or the show is going to end. But with Altered Carbon, it's like, cool, he's just sleeved into a different body and just going about doing his regular thing. It's the exact same person, just in a different body, which is, I think, such an amazing thing that can be pulled off with a show like this. It's executed very well, especially with the body, who is Anthony Mackie, I think it's Anthony Mackie, who played Falcon in all the Marvel stuff. He's playing Takeshi in this season, and he does a phenomenal job. We do see actually one character who we only see in flashbacks in season 1, brought into season 2 as a main character. So that's a cool thing, fleshing out more of Takeshi's backstory as well, because, well, you get a bit, but you don't really get a lot of his backstory. And this one is focused more on learning more about him, the past, and the lore of what has happened. So it's really good. Again, you get Poe in it because he's just the best. And you get some new characters that I really enjoyed. I'm just going to say that it left off on a bit of a cliffhanger for season 2 at the end, which sucks because it did not get picked up for season 3, but not enough of a cliffhanger where you're just like, I don't know what to do now. Like, I don't know. You can kind of extrapolate enough to be like, I can kind of see an okay ending. Like, if this is where it ends, it's left open enough for season 3, which it did not get, but it's closed enough where you can be like, I'm happy with this, or I'm okay with this, which is a nice thing to see. Usually you don't get that when it's canceled. When a show is canceled, you usually get like, well, I guess we're never going to figure out what happened to this character, or I guess there's so many plot points that we'll never see. But this one is closed enough where it's like, I guess I'm happy with it, even though I would have liked to see a third season. Again, this one is shot beautifully. A lot less nudity in this season than there was in season 1, which, let me tell you, lots of nudity in season 1. I'm just going to say. So if that puts you off, don't watch this, because there was a lot of nudity in season 1, a little bit in season 2, but not as much. If you're down for that, you're going to like season 1 and season 2. New characters, lots of new tech, some backstory and lore exploration. This is a very good season. I wish there was a season 3, but unfortunately it did not come through fruition. A good thing though was I did read that the author of the book, after watching season 1 and season 2, was like, man, I really want to write some more of this Altered Carbon Takeshi Kovacs story. So he may be in the future writing some more books. So we won't be stuck with only 3 books. There may be some further exploration through writing instead. I think it's a very interesting world that could be very well explored in animation or animated movies or 3D movies, or through comic books as well. I know there's one comic book, but I'd love to see more of it. It's such a well-done world and such interesting concepts that it could be really well done through some sort of animation or drawings or comics or something like that, where you have the freedom to do whatever you want. So now I'm going to do the shout out for a content creator before touching on my thoughts and what I would love to see set in the Altered Carbon world. Also, before the shout out, I would just like to mention that I am now streaming on Twitch Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then maybe a cheeky stream on the weekend if I get the time. Enough of my plugging, time to plug one of my favorite content creators. His name is Foul Mouth Productions, or Triggs. Again, he's another content creator that I have been friends with for a long time. Since I was doing YouTube stuff and Let's Plays, I was kind of in the same circle as him. We became friends with a bunch of other people, and he has, like me, grown and expanded what he is doing. Before he was doing Let's Plays and such, and now he does streams on Twitch. I will link the Twitch information in the show notes or description. He streams a lot, plays a bunch of different games. I've actually been playing Among Us with him, which is an awesome game. He also does a series called Mouthy Opinions on YouTube, where he gives his opinions on a video game that he has played. I really suggest checking him out. Again, he is called Foul Mouth Productions for a reason. He does swear a good portion. So if you have delicate sensibilities, I will say, maybe not to check him out. But if you want to check out someone who streams all the time, talks to his community a lot, is very connected with people, and likes to play video games, I would check out Foul Mouth Productions. Again, link for his Twitch and YouTube will be in the show notes or the description. Now, onto my thoughts about what I would do with the Altered Carbon universe. So I think the Altered Carbon universe is just ripe for picking with different stories and not following Takechi, because with the sleeves and the stacks and just the technology itself, you could follow basically anyone. I think it would be really interesting to do Now, I'm a sucker for noirs and hardboiled detectives and stuff like that, so I'm a little biased, but I think it would be incredibly interesting to do a detective set in the Altered Carbon world. So you would be finding people who, because the police are basically kind of just there for the rich and they don't really care about the poor people. So like a detective or private investigator who's trying to find missing people or trying to uncover some sort of conspiracy within a company or a factory or something like that. Like with all the technology and being able to switch stacks, I think it'd be really interesting to be a detective because you can have anyone wearing a different sleeve. So it's like I can go undercover as a waiter, or I can become whoever I want and you won't know me because I can just switch back to my original sleeve and bingo bango. So I think a detective would be really cool. But again, that is pretty close to like the mercenary that is Takeshi Kovacs in the series. But like you could even do some sort of like transportation people. Basically, I just want to see this world continue because it is so interesting and you can do so much with the stacks, because you can have like non-permanent death, but also you can have characters switching out different sleeves. So you can have anyone playing anyone. You could be a male in the first 2 episodes and then switch over to be playing a female to investigate whatever. Or it's just such a phenomenal concept that I really want to see it played out more. But basically it's a cyberpunk world. So do anything based in a cyberpunk world. I'm going to be a barista set in a cyberpunk world. Yeah, okay. That sounds dope to me. I'd watch that. But I really believe that it should be expanded upon more. Let's not focus on Takeshi. He's had his time in the sun. Let's try and focus on something different, some sort of different aspect, some like element miners or teachers. I just basically anything else to see how this world plays out because it's such an interesting concept. I hope you guys have enjoyed my ramblings about the amazing show Altered Carbon. Maybe I will do a little short update sometime after I have read all 3 books in the comic. If you did enjoy this episode, please like, follow, subscribe, whatever you do on any podcast or YouTube app that you use. You can reach out to me on Twitter or any podcasting or YouTube app. Just leave a comment and I will get back to you. All my links will be in the description and show notes. And until I see you next Wednesday, have a great week.